Hey everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel, and this is my weekly angel card reading video for the week beginning August the 12th to the 18th, 2019. So let's start shuffling for the week. For those of you who are new here, welcome. What I do is I choose a different card deck for each day of the week, just because I like to work that way. Everybody has their own kind of method. I draw a card, the angels will tell me when to stop, or a card just jumps out, and then I'll read it to you guys and give you my interpretation. Now, often these cards have multiple meanings, so it depends on the situation. Sometimes I just choose the one that feels most authentic to me, and sometimes I will give you like a whole selection of them. It just depends on what's going on, because some of them are really quite targeted, and I know that they're not going to target, that targeted meaning is not going to resonate with everybody in the same way. So we'll see how we go with that. But I will let you know, as I do with every card I deal, and if I haven't expressed this before, I hope you know you need to trust your own intuition. You need to apply the message to your circumstances, to what you're going through. Sometimes the way I'm delivering it won't relate to you, but you can either choose to park that for later when it does resonate, as it may do, or you can choose to change the way you look at it, because there may be something in there, even if it doesn't relate exactly to the way I've said it, that will speak to you. So hopefully that helps. Let's start shuffling for Monday, the 12th of August. Oh, this is not the right card deck. How do I know that? Because it just didn't go well. It's a feeling, like so much of this spiritual work, which I know is frustrating in a world where we're used to certainty, we're used to black and white, we're used to knowing how things are going to go. But that's just not the deal. And frankly, the better we can do at letting go of our desire to have a structure, to have things black and white, the better we'll be able to flow with life and to be more resilient. So for Monday, two cards have actually jumped out, which could be just because my hands are freezing cold. I've got very poor circulation. I maybe didn't shuffle them well. But hey, there's no such thing as a coincidence. So, and these two cards do actually go quite nicely together. So the first card is Power. This has been such a major theme of late, particularly the week before last. And the word power has a real image problem. People think of it as something that corrupts, something that is used to manipulate, to dominate, to control. And of course, it can be all of those things. But in a spiritual sense, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about self-empowerment. We're talking about your power to chart the course of your life, your power to choose the way you respond to a situation, your power to set boundaries against bad behavior instead of sitting around complaining about the way people treat you. So that's really what power is about. And on this particular card, there is a depiction of sort of an energetic force, if you call it that, coming out of this angel's mouth. And so very much the theme of this card is about the power of your words. And we're not in a Mercury retrograde, so communication hopefully should be going a bit easier for you, or at least not quite so haywire as it does during those 3 to 4 times a year that planetary alignment occurs. But I mentioned boundaries earlier, and I do think that's one important way when it comes to communication, that we do use our power. And of course, other ways are, asking for what we want. If you're in a relationship where you're not happy about the direction it's going, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to sit around waiting, or are you going to do something about it? Your partner can't read your mind. I know we'd love to think that when we're in a soulmate relationship, they should just know because we're so connected, but that's just not how it works. We're both individuals. We're all individuals, even within such tightly woven connections as soulmate relationships. And you need to ask for what you want. If you need to spend more time with your partner and you feel like you're not getting enough attention, or enough together time, or you're spending too much time together talking about work or looking at phones, whatever it is, use your words to ask for that. So I mentioned complaining as well. Complaining is a major way we give away our power. There's nothing wrong with having a whinge. We all do it. We're human. But when that is a constant theme, that's one way you're giving away your power, because you're choosing to hold on to resentment about the situation instead of actually taking action, which means stepping forth and doing something about it. And that ties into the victimhood kind of mentality that can happen. The poor me, the pity party. I don't think anybody watching this is going to fall into that category, but for sure you will know someone who falls into that category, particularly of a particular generation where they were of women in particular who were not really encouraged to ask for what they want. So their way, they tend to fall back on the pattern of just complaining about it instead. But this does happen to men as well. It's not just women. So yeah, it's certainly not targeted in any particular direction, but I do think that there is a stereotype of a type of person who whinges a lot. So let's not talk about that. Let's go on to the second card here, which is healing. We're 5 minutes already, and I'm still only on Monday. So the way these cards work together so well is look at healing to address the areas where you're not using your power. If you're letting someone else make all the decisions for your life, you're too scared to ask for the pay rise, for the changes to your job flexibility because you're not happy with how things are going in terms of you running your family life, or I don't know, that's just an example. Maybe get some healing around your blocks in the throat chakra, around communication, or around your fears of standing up for yourself, or your fears of rejection. Sometimes that's what's going on in a relationship. We're scared to ask for what we need because we may be rejected, even though we know that's actually not a logical concern. Fear isn't rooted in logic. It's rooted in emotion and energy, which means knowing the logical truth of this person is not going to reject me. That doesn't mean you're still not going to be afraid of it. So we need to take an energetic approach, and that's why I'm such a big advocate for energy healing. When we know something but we're not accepting it on a deep level, that means there's a fear there, something in the energy field, and so that is what I would always suggest. But you might prefer therapy or counselling. You might prefer other forms of energy healing. I don't know. It's up to you. You've got to go with what feels right for you. You might even prefer to go down the self-development kind of route with leadership training or something like that, or the school of life. Whatever it is, you are the one who knows best. And sometimes the only way you know best is to try something and go, yeah, that wasn't quite right. That's okay. That doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means you've eliminated something. So Tuesday, whoa, throat chakra. You can't make this stuff up. I clearly don't choose these cards in advance. If I did, I certainly would not be this obvious. We were literally just talking about communication. So I did mention the throat chakra in passing, but for those who want a little bit more information about that, or perhaps have never heard of chakras before, chakras are energy centers in our energy field, which is like our aura. It's outside the body and sort of connected within the body as well, but let's not go too far down that track. And it is the fifth one, I just had to count. It's located around the throat, funnily enough, and it is about communication, but not just spoken. It can also be written communication. Could even encompass body language as well, those non-verbal cues. So whenever we've got a block in the throat chakra, that means the energy is not flowing through it. It might be an imbalance. We might have too much energy, or we might have not enough energy there. And that means that can affect our well-being and sometimes even our physical health. So it depends on how it's showing up for you as to what this means. I will post an article that goes deeper into this, but generally a throat chakra block is going to affect the way that you communicate, the way you your self-expression. So it may be that you, as I mentioned, you're too scared to ask for what you need. It may be that you are overcompensating. You know, there's people who just don't shut up, like they just keep talking and very little of it is actually of any substance. Sometimes they're doing that to feel powerful, to feel important because they were taught or they weren't allowed to do that as a child or something like that. That's a weird example, but the people who are overcompensating with communication, that can certainly be related to an energetic imbalance, or poor flow. So I might park that. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'll end up taking you all down a rabbit hole. And I think that it's enough for you to get that overview. And if you need to know more information, you can certainly Google it. And as I say, I will post that on my Facebook page, and it's always available on my my website as well, which is www.onegroundedangel.com. Just if you're on your phone, you need to scroll down to get to the search field. It's at the bottom. If you're on your PC or your MacBook, it's on the right hand side. There's a search field. Just type in throat chakra, and it's chakra with a C. Now, annoyingly, we have two cards for Wednesday, and I do think these are connected. Sorry, maybe I've got a throat chakra block. So emerging, the first card is all about understanding you need to be patient. It's no coincidence there is a plant pictured here. If you think about gardening, and you don't have to be a gardener to know this, it takes time. We plant the seeds, we water them, we tend them, we pull out the weeds. We've no idea when the flower or whatever it is going to grow, or indeed if it will grow at all. And so we need to be patient with that process, but keep tending to it and keep doing the work. And that's a metaphor for life. We plant the seeds of the goals that we want, we keep chipping away at them, but they may not come to fruition, or they might, we don't know when. So the card is reminding you that your growth is forthcoming. So you just need to keep working away at it. Don't give up. Be patient, and understand that you are moving in the right direction. Quite a reassuring message. And here again, we've got energy letting you know that that might be the way to assist with any blocks that you are hitting. The other thing with energy is that outside of a spiritual context, the word energy is usually used to refer to our physical energy in terms of our fuel, how much energy we've got. So I am getting a message here. This might be coming up for those of you who are really lacking energy. And obviously we need to rule out the obvious things. If you're not drinking enough water, you're not getting enough sleep because you're staying up watching crap TV, or you're not eating enough vegetables to get enough nutrients. But beyond all that, what are the things that are draining you? Are you saying yes to everybody else's needs and not enough to yourself? Because if you are exhausting yourself to please other people, you are going in the wrong direction, because that's a sure path to a life of regret and of dissatisfaction, even though you might feel slightly virtuous at the time. And I'm not saying you shouldn't help people. I'm just saying we need to have some balance here, and we need to do a better job of understanding when those are the right people to help, and when they are people who are draining us. They're energy vampires. They are taking the piss, to use an Australian saying, that they're taking advantage. So you might like to look at where are the energy drains. If you're in a job you hate, that is so exhausting. So that might be something else you need to address, the way you're expending your energy and whether that's helping you or hindering you. And of course, exercise is one thing that people always forget when it comes to energy, because it seems exhausting, but it's kind of counterintuitive. Exercise actually does invigorate you, and I know for a fact I suffer if I abandon my exercise. And I don't even exercise intensively. I just try to stay active as much as possible. I do go to the gym twice a week, but I'm by no means a gym junkie. To be honest, I love it when it's not gym day because I don't really want to be there, but it is important, so I go and I feel better for it. So here we have Thursday's card, Maeve. I believe that's a Celtic goddess. The message is cycles and rhythms. We forget that we have seasons just like nature. If we think about nature, loses the trees in winter to make space for the new buds to form over spring. They start to bloom, they're in full bloom over summer, then in autumn they start to wither and then fall away again in winter. We have cycles too, and we forget that. So, and they're not necessarily attached to the seasons of nature, but you will go through times when you are tired, and you will go through times where you are bursting with motivation. So please try and honor where you're at in your life. Now, the word cycles, if you're a woman, your mind has probably already gone to the menstrual cycle, and I have to tell you, yes, that is a meaning here as well, if that applies to you. If you are entering into menopause, there might be a message here for you to honor where you're at with that, and to pay more attention to what your body needs from you in terms of balance. And if you are having difficulties with your periods, maybe that's something you need to seek out a naturopath or a doctor to help you with. And also, I think we have emotional cycles as well. Sometimes we can be really emotional, and of course, as someone with an avid interest in astrology, I would say that's often got to do with moon cycles, which of course are connected to our menstrual cycles, but that's a discussion for another day. So we do have a full moon this week in Aquarius, and I have forgotten what day it is. I believe it's Thursday or Friday. Soz, might need to look that one up. I know it's in Aquarius. And so if you may be more emotional around a full moon, because the full moon's a time of release, and it does tend to evoke strong emotions. And depending on where it hits your cycle, often they don't affect me at all. It just depends what's happening. but they can also affect your sleep as well. So sometimes you just need to kind of go with that and know it will pass. So it's really about listening to your body, that card, listening to what it needs from you, giving it what it needs, and try not to push yourself to be somewhere else. If you're really exhausted, but your friends are all like, let's go out, let's go do all the social stuff, you need to listen to your body and not try to push yourself to be in a zone that you're just not in at the moment. Friday, remembering that everything's cyclical and everything passes as well. So we're on Friday now. Here I go, awkwardly shuffling. Beautiful. So a card has jumped out for life purpose. So this is a concept that can really freak people out, because I will get people contacting me saying, I don't know what my life purpose is. That's really okay. If you fit into that category, it's really okay. It can take your whole life to figure out. And the journey, it's not about the destination, it is about the journey. Sorry, I know they sound like a Hallmark card now, but it's true. Sometimes people think if they just know their life purpose, everything will be okay. But it's the journey of discovery that teaches you so much, that holds so much value. It doesn't really necessarily matter what you end up doing. It's the journey of discovery is probably a large part of what you're here to do. Now, I do know my life purpose. I'm doing it now. It's my spiritual calling. It's to serve as a bridge between humankind and the divine, to bring those messages down into a digestible human form. That didn't make sense. A digestible human kind of language, because when I started on this journey, no one was speaking my language. It was all this airy-fairy kind of language. And, you know, props to those people doing that. That's their thing. It's not mine. I'm a very grounded human being. I live in reality. So I needed these messages decorated that way. I needed real world examples. I needed to know exactly how things were going to play out. I did not need spiritual jargon. And so that was how I found my path. I'm a writer. My background is in journalism. I still do journalism while I'm waiting for this path to develop more for me. It takes time in this business. So, and I try not to think of it so much as a business as much as I think of it as a calling as well. It really is a vocation. So I'm not so focused on where it is going as so much as giving it space to let it unfold, and it has. So that life purpose is where I'm at right now, but I know that's going to develop as I go forward, because when I started, I didn't expect it to be the form it's in now. I certainly never intended to do YouTube videos. I'm a writer, was not comfortable at all, confident to do things like this, but there was demand for it, so that's why I'm doing it. And I still don't really love it, but I really love getting the feedback, and that means that I am honouring my life purpose when I'm doing this, because it's helping people. So a large part of your life purpose is to be of service in some way. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't even have to be in your profession. In fact, oftentimes it's not. So if the word life purpose is too daunting for you, or you just don't really get it, which is okay, concentrate on this part, purpose. Are you living with a sense of purpose, or are you going through the motions? Are you in autopilot mode? This happens so easily. Are you running around ticking off obligations and duties and chores and not actually spending any time in self-reflection and thinking about what makes you happy, what gives you satisfaction and fulfillment, and why you're spending no time in that zone and all your time in running around doing things that you're not going to remember doing in 50 years. I guarantee you in 50 years' time you'll not remember all the washing you did. Well, I hope you won't. Anyway, so really think about the things that give your life purpose and meaning, and a lot of research shows those are the things that lift people's happiness levels. Remembering we can't be happy all the time, but we can certainly raise our baseline to one of greater contentment, and that comes from that fulfillment and satisfaction. And as I say, it's fluid. You're not going to feel it all the time. You do still need to do the damn washing. I'm sorry, I wish you didn't. But I certainly wish I didn't have to, but you know, that is part of life, and we can't get away from that. We need to make sure we have a better balance. True balance is probably not realistic, but we need to make sure we're at least spending some time in that zone of what is fulfilling to me, playing with my kids, talking to elderly people, I don't know, writing a blog about my mental health struggles, whatever it is, and bearing in mind it can change and there will be more than one for sure, if you're a parent, that's going to be one of them, is parenting your children. So just understand that it's a journey, and as long as you're investing time in it, it will evolve. And we've just had a message about emerging on that kind of note. So have I done this card deck? I'll go with this one. Okay, Saturday. I try and figure out which card deck I'm going to use for each day, but sometimes when I actually sit down to do the video, just doesn't feel right. Okay, here we have for Saturday a message about stress management, which might seem like an odd card to get on the weekend, but I know many of you on my Instagram and my Facebook see these cards a day ahead anyway, because you're in different time zones from Australia, where I am. So stress management. Stress doesn't actually go away in the weekends anyway. I know we associate it with the workplace, but sometimes we feel it most in the weekends because we feel so much pressure to get things done in the weekend that we didn't have time for in the week, or we feel pressure to actually enjoy ourselves and really make the most of that time, and then we get to Sunday and we freak out because the weekend's gone already in a flash, and we didn't do the things we wanted to do, and we didn't feel truly rested, and we didn't feel, etc., etc. So really look at where the stress is showing up for you. Now, as I said, workplace stress, it does come up for people, and for sure that's major. But we can also have emotional stress. That's a big one for people. I remember very early when I started having, I think it was the naturopath actually, and she was talking to me about stress, and I said, I'm not stressed. I do a job I really enjoy, and I'm not overworked. And she had to really explain to me that that's not necessarily the only way stress shows up, because my my blood was showing that there was stress in my body. And so it was emotional stress, because I wasn't where I wanted to be in my life. I wasn't satisfied. I felt, lonely and empty and all these sorts of things that I know you guys can relate to. And those things haven't necessarily vanished, but they have diminished because they're part of the human experience, and I don't think they'll ever go away. But they're not the dominant features of my life as they were at that point. Those are emotional stress. I was looking for my soulmate and had been single for such a long time, and was starting to despair it would never happen for me. Well, not starting to, I was actually despairing it was never going to happen to me. So that's another form of emotional stress. Feeling like you're not good enough, that you're letting everybody down, that you're a shit parent. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm from Australia and I'm actually a New Zealander. We're a bit laissez-faire with the old language in this part of the world, but I know in the States in particular you're not quite used to that. So I'll try and put a swearing warning when I post this up. I'm sorry about that. Just swap that out for if you're worried you are not a good parent. All those things are sources of stress. And I'm not saying they don't matter, because they do matter. Just because they're not, just because they're emotional and they're not things you can necessarily tangibly see, touch, etc., doesn't mean they're not real. They are real, and you need to address them in some way, whether that's through stress management, such as exercise, meditation, mindfulness. Mindfulness is probably more the grounded sort of approach, I have to say, because it's more couched in reality. Making sure your diet's good, all that physical health stuff that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but remains relevant. Seeing a therapist or a counsellor to work through your stuff, whatever it is. There's never a quick fix for this sort of stuff, but again, it's a journey, so you need to be at least taking steps towards working through things and starting to bring a bit more peace in, and sometimes you have to go through more of the challenging elements to get through it, because fear is triggered when we're on the right track. It's not telling us we're on the wrong track, which is easy to think, I know. It's usually coming up because we're being triggered, because the ego does not like us to change, because it feels scary, and that means we're going to be unsafe, and the ego wants to keep us safe by having us in this routine. So I feel like I've been talking a little bit fast, and I think it's because I tried to really compress a lot of information right into there, and I'm very sorry if that felt a bit like a scattergun kind of approach. The concept of stress is, in spiritual terms, not in medical terms, is complicated, and there's so many different ways it shows up. So I'm just trying to give you a different insight into the way stress might be playing out in your life, even if it's situational or circumstantial. Hopefully it was helpful. So Sunday, I've got here a favourable outcome. So with this card, I always draw people's attention to the scales. This angel is holding scales, which we know are associated with balance and with particular fairness in the legal system. So if you are going through a legal or some other sort of contractual negotiation, something like that, maybe custody, I don't know, something like that, even a job terms, kind of discussions, this card will come up in those circumstances to let you know that there is a favourable outcome for you. It is going to work out for you fairly. It may not be your best possible outcome, but will be the one that is fair. So try to trust in that. Let go of your concerns. Excuse me, I hay fever at the moment. Your concerns that you'll be treated unfairly, to put it simply. So if that's not your situation, never fear, the card still bears good news for you. It is letting you know good things are ahead. So whatever it is you're worried about, and guaranteed if this card has come out for you, particularly in a personal reading, it's to address the thing that you are worried about, the thing that you're not going to get this job, or you're worried that you're going to be, I don't know, let down in some way. This is letting you know things are going to work out for you. They may not work out the way you envisage, but they are going to work out. So trust in that, and try not to hold on so tightly to that worry, because when we invest fear-based energy into what we don't want, we start to actually attract that, and that's not ideal. And it's not saying you're not right to worry about it, it's just saying find a better way to deal with it. And again, those stress management issues could be the best way to go, making sure your out of control thoughts are not running the show. Try and get back some control over them, and you really can get control over your thoughts. I know it seems like sometimes you've got no say in where your mind goes, but you really do. And obviously meditation and mindfulness are both really powerful ways to do that. But obviously working through things with an expert is something I would always endorse. So looking at the week, wow, I don't even know where to start with this. There's so much going on. Communication is a big theme, dealing with communication blocks. I think some physical health issues in terms of the way we're using our energy, or blocking ourselves from having the best possible flow of energy, and certainly our stress management techniques would feed into that idea of physical health as well. Not that the stress is always physical, as I said, and maybe emotional, but will certainly have an impact on your physical health as well. And there are things you can physically do to fix it. I guess that's really it for the week. I don't even really know how to tie these all in together, but maybe that's not important. I like to look for patterns. I'm an energy healer, that's what I do. I look for the way things are connected, but maybe if you go looking too hard, you can get yourself going down the wrong path. So I'll just leave it at that. These go on my Instagram each day at One Grounded Angel, and my Facebook page, One Grounded Angel. Please don't worry if you're in a different time zone. When you see the card is when you need the message, so just go with it, even if it's popping up and it's 3 weeks late. And as I said, trust your intuition on what the card means for you. If you'd like a personal reading or to book an energy healing session, you can do that through my website, and that again is www.onegroundedangel.com. Just hit the bookings tab. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.